I mean, we do need that license, right? Or do we have to go underground? That's the big question. A lot of shareholders have even asked ourselves.
The Sonoro State needs it. Like 70% of the open pit minings are in Sonoro State. That's 70%. And it accounts for 25% of the GDP. Of course they're going to push for it. So we're comfortable it will be reasonably soon. But during that period, we continue to do everything to ensure that we're ready to go. We have continued our dialogue with Seminar, with all the officials and the local people throughout, and understand in the area that we're operating, surrounded basically by operating mines, we're on one farmland. We have no intrusion with any of the neighbors attending an event. And it was very refreshing to hear people saying, is this a 3 or 5 year project? Not is this a 3 or 5 day project?
Hi, John. Welcome back to our show. It's a pleasure to have you here today on our YouTube channel.
Thank you, Wolfgang. It's a pleasure to be here to talk to you.
John, our investor community is aware of our contrarian investment strategy, as you may know. And we have already told them that we have bought into Mexican junior mining companies operating in that jurisdiction. I think we did it already before the election have started. Please tell us a little bit, because you are also operating in Mexico with the Cerro Caliche project. What do you expect from the new government under the new leadership of Claudia Sheinbaum as a president? So what do you expect? And do you think the mining in Mexico will regain its former strength?
And throughout this time when we've had uncertainty, we tend to forget that all there was a proposal to ban open pit mining by the former president. And unfortunately, when the media took the story, they just said banning mining, open pit mining in Mexico. And so the immediate reaction, the knee-jerk, nervous reaction right through to the major companies was mining's over in Mexico. But that's not a reality of life. And so when we came to the end of his tenure and all the mining companies suffered a lot in their markets, people were nervous. Suddenly, October the 1st arrived. There's no mention of it anymore. You look at the platform that she put out, no mention anymore. And the view is there's no point talking about something that was merely a proposal and it didn't even go to the Senate or Congress. So we have seen, I think, an affirmation of what we've always believed, that Mexico is open for business in the mining area. And remember, in Sonora State, where we operate, 78% of the mines are open pit.
Wow.
It generates 25% of their GDP. So obviously, Mexico, they need mining, they need investment. She inherited the worst economy since the 1980s, etc. So everything is moving strongly in favor of gold mining continuing in Mexico. And we've seen that in the way they communicate with us. And I think we've also seen it in the marketplace. At the beginning of October, we were in Sweden, where we've established a relatively good relationship, not as strong as it's in Germany and in Switzerland, but you've seen the impact of it there. And when the election was over, there was an increase in Sonoro share price. It moved up quite rapidly in good volume, with a lot of interested buyers coming in, recognizing that, oh, it's actually going to go ahead. So we've probably traded about 10 million shares during the month of October. We moved up to a high of 10, and we're consolidating around 8. Now, that's okay. I'm happy with that, because the consolidation, the building of a base is very, very important. And we have to look at today, the election day, as being an exceptional day. There are just so many unknowns, except a good known now is Trump is going to be the president. There's not going to be another 3 or 4 years of dispute. So it's clear in the market, the response has been positive, and we take this as being probably the best solution for everybody.
Yeah, it makes sense, and I agree with you. But let's dig into another section here. John, I know you and your team is very well connected within the mining sector, and since 2021, Alfonso Durazo, who is the governor of Sonora State, he's a strong supporter of the mining sector, right? And do you also expect his support in getting the government's approval to build and operate Sonoro's gold mine at Cerro Caliche? Can you expect also support from the local state?
We have continued our dialogue with seminar, with all the officials and the local people throughout, and understand in the area that we're operating, surrounded basically by operating mines, we're on one farmland. We have no intrusion with any of the neighbors. There's a small community there of about 800 people, some 10, 15 kilometers away, where we're going to help them. We're going to help them with some purifying their water. That's one of our plans. But yes, we have a lot of support from the governor, a lot of support by the local people, and it's the employment that they're looking for. So we've always enjoyed good relationships with the communities. We take the approach that we want to leave the community in a better position than it was before we arrived. So we can educate them, we can improve their lifestyle, we can give them employment. And at the end of the day, when the mining operations cease, then have the land returned to a position where it's useful and the community has benefit.
I like that. It's a good approach, and I think it's how it should be, right? To have a real good relationship. John, in some Mexican publication, we have read that the new government has a little bit of focus on, let's say, environmental and social community issues. And do you have already an answer with the Sonoro team on those, let's say, requirements?
Yes, that is all incorporated in our application for the mining license. So, as I'd said to you, the local community is a very important aspect for us. And you'll know from my previous business dealings, the community has always been something that we've always worked well with. And we recognize that with the community, Wolfgang, you don't go and tell the community what you're going to do. You ask them, what do they want? You find out what they want, what's most important to them. And once that's been established, we then work as a family. And it's very important to remember, our whole mining operation is in Mexico. We have corporate people in Vancouver, but the Mexican team, the geologists, the mining engineers, all the people who will do the work, they're all Mexican and based in that area. So with the community, we have learned that you listen, you understand what they want, and then you build that into your plans. And in terms of our proposal, which Ken will be incorporating in our business plan, to actually purify the water for the local village so they're not drinking black water. We would do that as a matter of course, but we know that the Mexican government loves that because it fits in well with their plan. So we can say that we are an operation that does not have a negative effect too much on the local area. Clearly, a mining operation disturbs the land. But understand that this mining operation is actually at surface. It's almost like a glorified gravel pit. There aren't deep excavations. There's not a lot of serious disturbance to the land.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I think the government want to see also some reaction from the companies, and if you can work out some, let's say, new level, that's certainly a big help and plus point to get achievements. John, you have already talked about today's gold price with the Trump election, and yes, it has suffered a little bit, but nevertheless, the gold price is fabulous when we look back 1 or 2 years. Even a year ago, when you released your PEA, it has been much, much lower. And you always said Sonoro has a clear path to production. We have a clear business plan, and you want to stay with it, which certainly a lot of investors like. But can you comment a little bit on, let's say, your PEA, which is still in the public and part of the presentations, and today's gold price, which is certainly demonstrating even a much larger margin and a much larger, let's say, cash flow proposition when it comes to operation, when you have the mining license, which is, of course, still pending?
A lot of things you've included in your question, so I'm not quite sure where to start. So let's say that I can only speak to what is published, or I'm going to get into difficulty. And as you mentioned, the PEA we put out was based on $1,800 an ounce. We gave a comparison at $2,000 an ounce. But if you really look at those numbers, understand this is only on 1/3 of the property. And that's something which most people don't recognize. And I want to emphasize this. Junior companies drill and drill because they know that probably the only way to move forward is to be taken over.
Yep.
We are actually very fortunate that we have the capability of going to production. And therefore, our business plan dictated we would stop drilling and then move to production and develop the rest of the property from cash flow. That must be clearly understood. We didn't go to a business plan because that's all we have. Far from it. Far from it. So if 30% of the land that we explored will give us a PEA, that gives us an NPV of, I think it was around about 71 million US, and IRR of 59%. That's at $1,800 an ounce. It doesn't take a mathematician to work out what that net present value would be at $2,500 or $2,600. And let's really understand gold. Gold went up to 27.75, 27.80. Okay, so it's dropped now to 2,650. But that's still significantly more than $1,800 an ounce. And so if you take our cost of operations, all-in cost of operations, say $1,300, that's all in. So then $2,500, that's $1,200 per ounce. If you then consider that our projection is to do 30,000 ounces a year initially, take the 30,000, multiply it by what the revenue will be, or the net revenue, which should be, putting tax to one side, because in the development stage, tax is not paid. That's a significant amount of cash that flows into the company. So the net present value of Sonoro, if we were to take, say, $2,500 an ounce and use the same formulas we got there, it's not inconceivable that the net present value was well over 200 million US. And I'm saying it's not inconceivable. I'm not saying that it is. There are many factors that come into play. The most important part is, Wolfgang, is that even though the election is now over, even though there may be some more stability or instability, whatever you want to say, the gold price at $2,600 an ounce is a very attractive situation for Sonoro. And again, I want to repeat that all the numbers that you see are based upon just a 30%. The other 70% is known to be mineralized. And the confidence factor that we will have additional ounces from there is very, very high. And that's, again, what our business plan was all about. Go to production, the minimum amount of drilling, cash flow to develop the operation.
That's good to know. So there is lots of room for future expansion. John, it's not a secret that the last 2 years have been really difficulty for junior mining companies, nor for Sonoro Gold, and capital raising was certainly not that easy. I have to be clear here. I have thought when the gold price is going up to 2,500 or 2,700, there will be excitement in those stocks already. We have seen only the larger market cap companies, producing companies, and Agnico, a Barrick, a Newmont, maybe not so well, but some others with a really well-established operation, they have gone up in valuation, let's say, by 100% over the past 12 months. But the junior sector still had some issues. And tell us a little bit how you could overcome that phase where you could not raise capital so easily. What have you done, and what can we expect in the future?
Wolfgang, you've been instrumental, and as we move forward to raise funding. You, of all people, know the difficulties that juniors experience. But further, you know that we are very resilient as a company. And let's step back in time as to when we started this company in 2019, when I first joined in 2018, we had a very firm business plan to go to production as quickly as we can with the minimum amount of drilling. Everything was built and moved forward in that way. And we traded as high maybe as 35 cents. There's a lot of strong positive feelings. We had project financing lined up for us. We have a business plan. We have Jorge Diaz, the mining engineer, and Mel Hurdick, the geologist, put a very strong plan together to take us forward. And we were going so well. And that's when the Mexican government indicated, oh, we're going to put a ban on this, or proposing to. The natural reaction of panic, and we've seen that, the share prices fall off, et cetera, et cetera. And so we, as all companies, suffered from that. But unlike a lot of companies, Wolfgang, you know from our insider reports that we not only participated in each of the fundings, when there was no funding from somebody else, we would put up perhaps almost all of it. And then subsequently, what we have done is when we were not able to have the property payments covered from project financing, which was the agreement, the insiders stepped up. We have put up over $3.6 million US for our own money to pay for the property payments.
Mhm.
And it's very important to read the chairman's letter, which is that these loans are unsecured.
Mhm.
There are no repayment terms. There's no intention to convert them to shares. The intention is to have a repayment when we're in operation or we get them through project financing. So what I would say, Wolfgang, to you is that look at the company and the insiders and the management. Competent people, business people, own 25, 26% of the company, average cost about 14, 15 cents. They're here. They stood by the company when the companies didn't have funding. They continued to maintain all operations. And when it was not possible to raise it, they put their own money in to maintain that. And then further, when we got to the stage of making the property payments, because it's a bit like a mortgage on your home, they don't care if you're not working, they still want payment.
Yeah.
And so went to the landowners and we said, okay, we'll pay it. And we've made all of the payments. So the insiders, as to a demonstration of their commitment to the company, should be seen by shareholders. When we went through that dark period through this summer and people became in despair, and we understand that, oh, it's all over, Mexico said no, et cetera, et cetera. Those who were actually more inclined to say, okay, well, let's look at who are the people, what are they doing, how are they supporting us, they maintain the property payments, are they still alive? And then at the end of the day, those who chose to go ahead of the pack, or Rick Rule used to say, when everybody's looking the other way, they come forward. They're the ones who will be rewarded in the long run.
Totally
And
agree.
yes, and Wolfgang, I know that you do, and we've had these conversations before. So we look at this and saying, yep, we've taken the punches, absolutely. And it's traditional that the big operating companies, they do best first, then it's the mid-tier, then the juniors, and this time has been probably the worst in about 30 years or more. But the reaction we saw, Wolfgang, over the month of October, and it's from Germany, it's from Sweden, it's for the first time from the States, people are saying, my God, this company, the potential upside is significant. And so we not only went to Sweden, we went to Toronto, we went into Florida with attending an event. And it was very refreshing to hear people saying, is this a 3 or 5 year project? Not is this a 3 or 5 day project?
Yeah.
And so these people are looking at it saying, so this is going to go ahead. And once they understand our backgrounds, once they understand our commitments, they look at the price of gold. They all believe Wolfgang is going to go to $3,500 or $4,000 an ounce, and I can't say if it is or not.
Mhm.
The fact it's maintained its current level is surely an indication that it's probably going to go up more than quick as it's going to go down. So a long-winded answer to your question, I know, but in terms of the price of gold and the share price and what's happened, I would say, okay, we've gone through the winter.
Mhm.
We've gone through that period where it could not be worse for a junior, which is you have an operation which you can't take to production, you've got property payments to come up, etc. How do you do it? Thank goodness the insiders are so committed to this project, they put up the money. And the surprises we get from people, which is, well, what is your security? We said none. Well, when you get repayment, when it's there, why don't you just convert it? Too much dilution. Are you going to roll the stock back? No, we're not going to roll the stock back. So all of the fears that people have, if they look at Sonoro, those fears become unfounded because the insiders are not promoters, although we have to have a promotion, of course, but we are 4 individual business people, geologists, mining engineers, financing, etc., who individually have done well, going from concept, development, operations, or sell. And we've come together for this one purpose. And it's not a matter, Wolfgang, of saying, well, maybe if you have a different company. No, we don't. What are the diversions you have? We don't have any. We're totally committed to this project. And so I think what we're going to find is we saw how people responded with the new president. We saw the increase of almost 100%. We saw the volumes and we saw the consolidation. The fact that it consolidates on high volume, for a couple of days, we traded 2 million shares at 10 cents. To me, that's beautiful. Mm-hmm. It means that you're building a base to move forward. And we are very comfortable that as we move forward and the results of the election settle in, within about a week or so, people will start focusing their minds again on where's the greatest opportunities. And we'd like to be able to present that in a basket full of junior mining companies to look at, which company can actually say we have all the essential components to be successful. Now, that's not to say we will go to production. It may well be that we're required, but we don't have to be in a position of saying we must be acquired.
Yeah.
If the price is right, we will put it to our shareholders. If not, the shareholders should be comfortable that we will have a pathway forward.
I like that. And actually, you have answered a lot of questions regarding shareholders. And I think you have clearly now answered that you are different than many, many other junior mining companies. I really like that. And I think all of you shareholders, loyal shareholders, they will also account on that. So that's excellent, John. But back to your statement that the management and the technical team holds approximately 26% of the outstanding shares. And assuming the company would be in production, would have that kind of cash flow, that higher margin because the gold price has moved. Mm-hmm. I mean, this gives you a lot of flexibility. Of course, you want to explore the asset to expand the resource. Of course, you have to pay back your debt instrument or your capex. But on the other hand, you could do also a share buyback. You could pay dividend. I mean, with that high gold price, it would give you a lot of flexibility. And I don't want to say you can refix things, but what I mean, when people say, you have printed shares at lower price levels, if you do a share buyback, you can reduce outstanding shares. So with cash flow, you have lots of flexibility. Do you agree on that?
Okay, I agree 100%. We have so much flexibility. And rather than make a commitment to say we will do a share buyback, which makes a lot of sense, or that we pay dividends, which makes a lot of sense, the level of cash flow that should come from this operation, and I'm not in a position to say what it will be, it has to come from an independent party, but hypothetically, use the word hypothetical, if we were producing, say, 30,000 ounces a year, and the margin after all-in costs is $1,000, that's $30 million a year. US. Our market cap is 12 million US. Mm-hmm. That's quite an upside potential. But to get to your point, that cash enables you to do a multitude of things. Mm-hmm. And that, if you remember, going back to the former project, say crew development, the first thing we did with crew, which is the same model for here, was to get cash flow. Once you have cash flow, there are an abundance of opportunities. So we could see Sonoro potentially growing the same way as crew, acquiring other operations that would build, which we could fund then from cash flow. Mm-hmm. Or we could take the view that a larger company would look at the market cap of the company or look at the potential, I suppose you'd say that. Mm-hmm. Once it's clear we go into production and make an offer to take us into their portfolio. So there are many things that can and could well happen here, Wolfgang. But I like your ideas of what we could do. And I'd say that we as a company, we are flexible in that way. In terms of financing, there are opportunities out there. There's debt financing. We've had conversations regarding gold loans. We've had offers regarding royalties, which we're not particularly keen on, for various reasons. But if you think the capital cost is only 15.5 million US, and then people have to say that number again, that for a mining operation, 15.5 million US. Okay, say inflation's coming in, it's another 20%. Oh, we're up to 18 million now. You have a revenue stream of how much? So It's not an impossible task to get the funding for this. We've had offers, but again, I can't go into discussions that are not in the public arena. Just to say that understand the people involved here. They have a history of successful operations from discovery through to sale.
Mm.
If there is a proposal that is very attractive for the shareholders, then we'd give it serious consideration and we put it to the shareholder vote.
Excellent. John, so let's say, let's talk about a little the future. We need a mining license, right? And I don't want to ask you when do you expect the mining license, because previous statement management could not fulfill because of the change and shift on the government level. However, somehow the new government has to react on those, let's say, inquiries somewhere sitting on their tables. Is there a guideline you have, even if you want to be very precisely? But I mean, we do need that license, right? Or do we have to go underground? That's the big question a lot of shareholders have even asked ourselves.
Good observations. The good thing about what you've just said is if you look at the high grade that we've got at Guadalupe or El Colorado, grades that are equal at least to the underground operation into Mercedes, yes, we could go underground, but there's not going to be a requirement to do that. Will we go underground eventually? I would suspect so. But initially, we were going to go open pit. And it's back to our business plan of not playing sort of roulette, going for the high grade expense, the capital involved. Because once you go underground and walk in, the capital expenditure really increases. That's when it gets complicated. So we will be going and proceeding on an open pit operation. That's really our goal. And along the way, we find there's the underground operation, then we would look for that as well. So we're comfortable where we are. We're comfortable with being able to secure the financing. As to your question, which I'm not trying to avoid, but as to when is it going to be issued, we were caught offside a couple of times by being told by Seminar, imminent. Is a little bit like mañana, or it's in Thailand, it's not quite convenient. So there's no, but what we have been told repeatedly, there are no further questions.
Okay.
We have been told that the governor is very much pushing for our project together with others. And you will have seen from the press, the new president and her colleagues are meeting with mining companies. Okay. She had stated, as I put into the chairmanship, we're open for business. And think of it logically. I know it's a little funny to say this, but I say to people, why do the Mexicans speak Spanish? The Spanish went there for the gold and the silver. It's Mexico and mining is synonymous. And it may have been a political maneuver to get a majority to do things. But bear in mind, with the supermajority that the former president had, if he wanted to do it, it would have been passed.
I agree.
It wasn't. And you look now, the new president, she's got to restore the economy. And she's said to the world, your investments are safe with us. And our operation is one that enhances the local community. We have the community support. We have all the environmental issues addressed. A little bit of a bonus, putting a water treatment plant in. So we see no reason as to why this won't be granted in a reasonable time. Now, I'll be a little bit bold here. I don't believe it's going to be before the year end. I think that probably politically, she'll wait till the new year.
Makes sense, yeah, probably.
But I would be comfortable saying within the first or maybe the second quarter, it will be done. Because, Wolfgang, just consider, there's a lot of mining companies with pent-up millions of dollars waiting to spend money down there. Mexico needs it.
Yeah.
Sonora State needs it. Like 70% of the open pit minings are in Sonora State. That's 70%. And it accounts for 25% of the GDP. Of course they're going to push for it. So we're comfortable. It will be reasonably soon. But during that period, we continue to do everything to ensure that we're ready to go. Our mine plan. We may do an updated PEA. We may decide that perhaps we should do a little bit more drilling or something like that, just to keep investor interest.
Yep.
But please be assured, of the investor's commitment to do it. And I know I always say to people, one of the unique, which is a strong word to use, but almost unique situations about Sonoro Gold is that it has the 5 essential components for any business. Now, it could be coal, copper, it could be a grocery store, it could be running a business. If you don't have the people, you don't have the project. You don't have that personal engagement. That, financially, you think of how much money the insiders have got in here. There's a lot of incentive to keep going. And if you don't have a business plan. So and last, of course, access to funding. And as you know, we've raised some 200 to 300 million in the past. You've been involved in it. So we say the critical part for us is we maintain our business plan. Yes, we got tripped up, but we kept going. And in terms of the share price falling, there's nothing we can do about that. All we can do is to continue to say, look, we're here. If we need to have funding to do something, we welcome our shareholders coming in. But don't worry, if you're unable to or unwilling to, we'll do it.
Excellent, John. It's a very, very good summary. You gave us a lot of information, inside look, and explanation. So it's excellent, and thank you very much for that. Last question or comment from my end. What would you like to give to your existing and potentially new shareholders as a last closing remark here, please?
I would like to say to the existing shareholders, our sincerest gratitude for staying with us, moving with us with difficult times. We've always endeavored to be open and transparent. If we've been optimistic at times, it's not because it was something to say, it was based upon what we were told from Mexico. So existing shareholders, we understand you've come through a lot. You've been there with us. We appreciate that. And when we do financings, if you join us, that's grateful. But believe us, we're here for you, for all shareholders, which is why we're not rolling back the stock, which is why the loans will not be converted to shares. That's not the intention, because everybody gets affected by dilution. So that's the existing shareholders. And for new shareholders coming in here, looking at Sonoro, they've come in at the perfect time. They're coming in when the concerns regarding Mexico become history. So they come in fresh eyes, they come in with a new opportunity. And I'm very pleased to say that when we were there in Florida, the conversations when people heard the story, and they said the market cap, that's it. So I'm not going to say all the nice things they said, but it really goes in line with what they said to us. One, we need to get this election behind us because we think there's going to be turmoil. If it's a big win by Trump, the turmoil is going to be less. If it goes the other way, it'll be a not disaster, that's the wrong word, but it'll be uncomfortable. So that's behind us now, right? So and I hope everybody look at this and say, look, let's take Sonoro as it is today. Group of people, good project. Potentially, it's been said and published before, potentially it could be as high as 2 million ounces. But even taking what we have now, what the present value is. So we have a plan, we have the ability to execute it. But will we be acquired? Time will tell.
That's a good closing remark, John. Thank you very much for that outstanding interview here. All your explanations are well received by our investors in Europe, I'm sure, but also on your Canadian market or US market. Thanks a lot for giving me the time and opportunity to talk with you. And my closing remark is quite simple. Looking the next 6 to 12 months, Sonoro could be an outstanding junior mining company achieving lots of milestones, and that's what you want to be involved with. Thanks a lot to your team as well, and hopefully we can do that update in the new year. John, thanks a lot.
Wolfgang, it's been a real pleasure. Always, any shareholder is welcome to reach out to us, and we'll respond and give as much information as we publicly can.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you, Wolfgang. Bye.
Bye.